rests, I'm going to have these closer to the door.
This is what the SR sounds like while it's in operation. It's a little bit more noisy because of the daylight spool that I have loaded. The SR stands for silent reflex, and this was the model that came after the Arriflex BL, if I'm correct. I may stand corrected. The mechanics of this camera were very quiet, and so it was sought after. Prior to the SR, cameras had to be blimped, though they did have a blimp for the SR camera. A blimp is that box, that outfit which the camera is enclosed in to dampen the sound of the mechanics. This is the SR model with a German motor. The early SR models had the French motor, which was notorious for causing trouble. I laid the SR out on a table and traced it on a large piece of paper to make a form. I then took my form and traced it onto mover's blanket and cut the mover's blanket into pieces, which I sewed together to form a Barney. So this is a sound Barney as opposed to a blimp. A Barney just lightly dampens the noise of the camera mechanics. This was very easy to make. I just put some foam material inside the mover's blanket to add some additional sound dampening. So I'm going to run the camera with the Barney on. So this is the camera fitted with the sound Barney. I'm going to roll and you can hear the difference. Again, you can hear the daylight spool. Once you hear that noise, you know the film has reached its end and is completely on the take-up side. So, now that we have finished rolling through a magazine, we can detach it. Completely safe to do this in daylight. Because everything is in that light tight take-up side. Put the magazine cap on. Put the gate cap on. I remove all of the tape on this film magazine. And what I do is I take the piece of tape with the film identification number and the date and put it to the side. Next, I put the magazine into the pup tent. And I close the doors, I put my hands in, and this is what happens. So, I open this door. We have the film on a spool This is only 100 feet here. I move the film gauge lever back down. I push down the locking button on the film core adapter to remove it. I hold the film like so with a finger so that the film doesn't unravel. When you have your spool, of course you have the core adapter in the middle. This is part of the magazine. Some mistakes that amateurs have made, including myself, I have made this very mistake, is you forget to push out the film core adapter and you put this into the film canister and ship it to the lab and never see it again. Now, it's tricky removing these film core adapters, especially blind. What you want to do is you want to have one finger on your film spool to ensure that the loose end doesn't unravel. And you want to use both of your thumbs to push out this core adapter. So I hold the spool with my middle finger and ring fingers on either hand, and with my thumbs I push core adapter out like this, okay? And you'll hear it fall, and you know you don't have to sweat anymore. The trickiest part is over. I have a little anecdote to share with you. When I was filming the proof of concept for Poet in a Modern World, A Moment Is Enough, I was unloading a film magazine during shooting. We had gone through 2 magazines and I was unloading one to load it for additional shooting, and I arrived at this part of the unloading process. I had attempted to push out the core adapter, but what ended up happening is I pushed out this spool. You see how I'm pushing that out slowly? I pushed out this spool. And what happens when you push out the spool and not the core adapter? The inside of the spool begins to unravel, and it coned out in the light bag, and my back was cloaked with perspiration, and for almost 2 hours I had to wind the film back onto the spool again. I didn't do that successfully. Fortunately, my first AC had his pup tent, and we went into a room. We taped all of the seams in the room with grip tape to ensure that it was completely dark, and began to transfer from one pup tent to another pup tent this unwound, coned out spool of precious film. 50 feet of the footage was marred. I had to restore that footage, but that is my little anecdote. So now, the next task, you take that tape that Kodak placed on the film and you place it back on, like this. So that way, it's not going to unravel during shipping, okay? So once that's done, you take the spool and you place it in your black bag. You fold the bag like so, and you place this back in the film can, you put the lid back on, and you're ready to take your film can outside of the pup tent. Press firmly down on the lid and hold it like so, grabbing it very tightly. I take it out of the film changing tent and use tape to tape the seams of the film can, going around the entire circumference and sealing it like this, going around by fingernail and pressing into that seam to make sure that is sealed. Okay, I usually use 2 pieces of tape like this, but there you are. Then I take that label for the film magazine that I made, and I use this like so. And there you are. No force is really going to open this. I'm pressing very hard and it's not cracking open. So this is sealed and ready to ship. The film laboratory that I have used for Poet in a Modern World is Cinelab, located in Boston, Massachusetts. They are the longest running film laboratory in the United States. I trust them very much. They have done an excellent job in scanning the footage for Poet in a Modern World. I have no complaints whatsoever. They have the greatest prices, in my opinion, for film scanning. They have student discounts. This is what the forms look like for Cinelab. One is for the work order and the other's for the customer information. And you need to be very thorough with the information you do provide. Make sure all of it is right to begin with. You don't want any errors with the development of your film. There's really only one chance at this. So make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, and proofread this multiple times before you send it to the lab to make sure that information is correct. This is how I label my film canisters. I put my name, my phone number, my email address, the project name, the amount of feet, kind of film, and I indicate whether or not I'd like this film canister returned to me, and I also put how I'd like this film to be processed. So process normal. You can see that there. If you want the footage to be developed in order, you can put your roll numbers onto the film canisters, which correspond with the roll numbers you put down on the work order. You can add notes to the staff of the laboratory. What I usually ask for is for log C scans, DPX frames. That way I have complete control over the image. I have the best scans possible. I send them an external hard drive like this. This is 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte hard drive. If you're sending in 1,600 feet of footage, this will do the trick. And you want to make sure your hard drive is labeled with your name, your phone number, your email address, your project name, even what the format is. So if the format is Mac OS Extended, you want to indicate that just in case. You fill out your forms, you put them in an envelope, you give them your credit card information. If you are asking for a no-rush turnaround, which is what I invariably do, just to save money, I have to wait about 2 weeks until the film is sent back to me. So the way the film is sent back is in a little pizza box like this. No, there isn't pizza in it, but there's your valuable footage that you've labored and toiled to create. So Cinelab likes to send a little sticker. I've adorned a lot of cases with these. But this is what your footage looks like when it's back. It's on a spool, it has some leader, and they put it in a nice plastic sleeve to ensure that it's going to be protected from any dust and debris. I have left my footage in these cardboard boxes. Maybe that's not the best practice. It is in that plastic sleeve. I've heard some archivists say that metal tins, the steel canisters that such as this one that Kodak utilizes, it can off gas over time. The cans begin to rust, and that can damage the footage. You want to have some kind of airflow. The best canisters are the plastic ones. That's what I've heard. So what I immediately do is I name the scene on this small label, so I know, oh, this is the footage for that given scene. And I store it along with a dozen other boxes of footage for Poet in a Modern World. And that, I believe, concludes the entire process of unloading the film magazines and sending your footage to the lab and retrieving it. I will make a separate video about the editing process of how I import all of the 2K scans of Poet in a Modern World and treat those in DaVinci Resolve. Thank you for joining me for this series on 16mm filmmaking. Hopefully this was informative. I'm not the greatest at demonstrating live in front of multiple cameras and going through all of this all of the technical jargon that there is regarding 16mm filmmaking, but I hope that it was of use, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Camera rolling and action.
Production for Poets in a Modern World has reached its midpoint. Because of the continuous support of countless people across the world who yearn for art created with sincerity and purity, 20% of the funds necessary to tell half of this story were raised. With over 2 miles of footage sent through our 16mm camera, another 2 miles remains untraveled. Only 49% of Poet in a Modern World is left to capture. My gratitude for those who have helped us along the way is inexpressible. This film has been chiefly funded out of my own pocket, and now the rest of the budget lies in the hands of its supporters. If you desire to see the completed film, please consider giving towards the latter part of production to carry our sales to the final destination. Once Poet in a Modern World is ready for the screen, the picture will be taken around the United States for screenings at a myriad of independent cinemas and any film festivals that aren't frightened by its countercultural nature. It is the hope of my cast and crew that the last reel of film will roll through the camera towards the end of 2024. Visit bit.ly/support-poet to join our voyage and help us create a more beautiful cinema together.